Tonight on News 5 Live, testy debate in the Senate. Write-off to Joshua Perdomo is voted down, while UDP Senator Michael Perrafete says money motions cannot be defeated by the Senate. Church Senator says Perdomo has a moral obligation to pay. The management contract for Lottery to Brad's Gaming Company Limited is reviewed. At stake is its automatic renewal. We'll have a development on this matter. 2 men walk free of the murder of Michael Welch after almost 5 years on remand. We head north to Little Belize, where the drought has caused millions of dollars in losses. And the U.S. Embassy awards $1.5 million Belize dollars in CARSI Economic Support Fund grants. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast. Welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, October 9th. I am Marlene Cuellar. It was a rare occasion in the Senate today. The upper chamber voted against a motion to write off $40,474.88 owed by Joshua Perdomo, the son of Cabinet Secretary Carlos Perdomo. The motion was brought to the Senate after the House of Representatives approved the motion last Friday when it came back from committee. After a heated debate, 7 of the 13 senators, including Church Senator Ashley Rock, voted against the motion. The UDP senators were the only members who voted in favor of the write-off granted to Perdomo to obtain a master's degree in forensic genetics at the University of North Texas. While on study leave, Perdomo continued to collect his salary and was to return to Belize and serve the country. Perdomo failed to do so, and the government says it cannot locate him. But the debate got testy between Senator Michelle Shabat and the Attorney General Michael Perry-Feet. Church Senator Ashley Rock, who for the first time has taken a stance contrary to government, says that the Prime Minister should make a personal effort to collect the monies.
There is still the moral responsibility that we all have, that we should all have to Belize, which is what we have seen over the years. Belize have suffered over and over brain drain of people who think that they can just take what they want and then find better employment or greener pastures, so to speak, in another place. I think it is incumbent on Mr. Perdomo, wherever he is, to come and make right what he has done. And that is to return the $40,000 to the government. Man, we could use $40,000. The government needs that. And I believe, with all due respect to my Prime Minister, this one, he should make sure he collects that money from that man. With that submission, Mr. President, the church have said no to that thing.
Senator Rock quoted a Supreme Court case that has specifically decided on a similar point, and the Supreme Court has ruled in a previous similar instance that this is a specialty, and the limitation period is 12 years. I don't know where law school the Attorney General gone to. Excuse me, Honor.
Senators,
I have the floor. He has had his turn to speak. And what he has represented to the Senate is not correct.
Senators.
This is a 211 contract. That's a 1976 case. How can it be the same thing?
Senators.
How can a court in 1976 say what this contract means? Come on, Misho.
Mr. President, please, he has had his turn to speak. And he is being disingenuous, and he has misrepresented to the Senate. That is what he has done.
Senators.
It doesn't matter.
Senators.
Make no mistake about it, Mr. President. The opposition is clearly making politics out of this write-off motion. Strictly politics. Mr. Perdomo's son should not be treated in any special way simply because he's Mr. Perdomo's son. No special treatment must be given to him. But then you shouldn't treat him differently than you would treat anybody in this situation either, simply because he's Mr. Perdomo's son. The government, as is standard in these cases, when it believes it cannot get back the money it has put forward, would write it off. And I would like to mention to Pastor Rock, it doesn't mean that Mr. Perdomo, Joshua Perdomo, has gotten away scot-free. You think that Mr. Perdomo could ever work for the public service again? or get any serious job in the public service again if he fails to make good on this. A writing off doesn't mean that you cannot use it still as a bargaining chip at some point in the future. We can still get back the money. Unless Mr. Perdomo has accepted that he will never return to Belize and never work for Belize again.
This matter is not being raised only because it's Joshua Perdomo that is under the scrutiny. The fact is that if it were Joshua Smith, no Joshua Smith could get $40 bond for go study nowhere, Mr. President. You have to either be one minister's son or a political affiliate to be able to get things like this,
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. Joshua Perdomo has a moral responsibility to pay back this money. And I would hope that he would be urged by anybody who can urge him to pay back this money.
At the end of the debate, a division was called by Senator Shabat to document the vote of each senator. As we said, 7 of the 13 voted against the write-off. While the Senate did not approve the write-off, Attorney General Michael Parfit says that money motions cannot be defeated by the Senate. As we understand it, under the finance orders, once the House approves a motion of write-off, it stands. In other words, although the Senate voted no, the House approval is all that is required. In fact, it appears it was an oversight by the government that landed the motion in the Senate.
It moves forward. The money bills and money motions cannot be defeated by the Senate.
One would argue, what was the point of them bringing the motion here, if that is the case?
Well, all motions and all bills that pass through the House must come to the Senate.
So it's procedural based, basically.
But the Constitution states very clearly that any money motion or money bill that goes through, comes from the House passed, and goes to the Senate, even if the Senate rejects it, it passes through in any event. If it were not a money bill, there's a month delay. But the reasoning behind that is that the Constitution makes it very clear. 13 people who are appointed cannot override 31 people who are elected. It just doesn't make sense. So I don't know if people thought that it was otherwise, but it was just a simple check of the law that would tell you that even if a money motion or a money bill is defeated in the Senate, it still goes through once it was passed in the House.
Also voting against the write-off was Senator for the Private Sector Mark Lizarraga. According to Lizarraga, while it was expected that the Senate would not be able to block the write-off, the point was to represent the interest of the Belizean people.
Whatever happens, I mean, we know in the past that regardless of what we say in the Senate, things still take place. But I think today I was proud that, the majority of senators stood on principle in saying we need to protect the people's assets. We need to ensure that everybody has an equal opportunity. And there's so many students that owe for their education loans. There's so many people that would love to have an education loan and a scholarship or to be sent away to study. And at the very least, these people have an obligation to come back, and if they don't come back, certainly to pay for their loan. And again, it's unfortunate because especially given the position of that person's father who sits in cabinet, I mean, it just sends a wrong signal, A valid point was made that you have somebody that made a guarantee and that the government should have acted well before now to have made good on that guarantee and collected from the guarantor if they couldn't find the principal.
Still on the unpopular Joshua Perdomo write-off, the leader of the opposition, John Briceño, has written to the House Speaker, Laura Longsworth, taking issue with the conduct of the debate on October 4th. Briceño tells the Speaker that he and other parliamentarians were denied the right to debate or comment on the write-off, and that goes against the grain of their responsibility. Briceño states that the decision to block the debate was, quote, clearly a denial of my constitutional right and duty as a member of the House, and in particular as the leader of the opposition, unquote. He points out that the practice is for bills and motions to be sent to committee and then referred back to the House for debate and comment. As such, the ruling of the Speaker is contrary to the letter and spirit of the standing orders and also to precedent and practice governing the passage of motions and bills relating to government business. Briceño also tells the Speaker that the stifling of debate on a matter of national importance will have a deleterious effect on the democratic process and on how the House functions as rules-based, deliberative, and oversight institution. Senators also debated the amendment to the Contractor General Act. The amendment removes the limitation which barred any contractor general to return to the public service after his or her term concludes. This, according to the government, made it quite difficult to find a replacement for Godwin Arzu, whose contract was not renewed after senators pointed out that he had failed to submit reports over the course of several years. The amendment was approved, but according to private sector Senator Mark Lizarraga, it lacks many important changes that are needed within the Contractor General's office.
This office needs to look at over 1,000 contracts per year. Over 1,000. This office only has 3 people. Or had. No, you only got 2, I guess. The Contractor General, a secretary, and administrative assistant. We are seeking to pass a law, instead of strengthening that office, to weaken it. Because the way it's set up right now, the person was not able to function.
From a policy perspective, we did not believe that a public servant should be disenfranchised from being a public servant in the future just because they took the job of Contractor General. And I will tell you, it's been very uncomfortable for us at the Attorney General's ministry because we have not been doing their job because we are not mandated by law to do their job. All we are able to do is say, look, from the looks of this contract, it seems as if though, if there was a Contractor General in place, given all the parameters that we have to cross, that it's a legal contract. But that's all we can do. We want a Contractor General. We've been desperately in search for a Contractor General. If you know anybody who wants to be one, Senator Lizarraga, please tell them call me. It will be less work for the Attorney General's ministry, I can tell you that. Or why don't you come, sir? Since you're such a patriot, and you're so honest, and you're so decent, why don't you offer yourself to be Contractor General? But I bet you wouldn't.
2 Belize City men were freed from murder charges after spending almost 5 years on remand at the Hatterville prison. Lysong Cacho and Tariq Gillett faced trial for the March 2015 murder of Michael Welch, which occurred on Periwinkle Street in Belize City. Kingsley Morrison was also shot during the gun violence and was the Crown's main witness in the murder case. But since police have not been able to locate him, the prosecutor was forced to enter a nolle prosecute in court today. The case was heard before Justice Colin Williams in the Supreme Court. Late this evening, News 5 got an interview with attorney for Tariq Gillett, Norman Rodriguez, who shared what transpired in court.
It ended today. Both young men have gotten back their freedom. You know, they were on remand for just 3 months short of 5 years.
Okay.
And during that time, they were just coming back and forth to court. The case ended today, and they've been given back their freedom because the Crown has entered the nolle pros, saying that, well, at least indicating to the court that the main witness, which is basically what this case stood on, it has been eluding police all along.
So today, I noticed only one of the young men came out. The other individual, is he on remand pending other?
Well, Tariq Gillett is our client.
Okay.
I am not sure really why the other young man has been kept by the police, but I'm sure that it has to do with some other matter, because for him, this matter is finished.
Following the case, only Gillett exited the courtroom as a free man. That is because Lysong Cacho is serving time for a gun and ammunition bust back in 2013. Cacho was convicted along with DeAndre McCoy for the crime by former senior magistrate Sharon Fraser and sentenced to 5 years on September 14, 2016. Cacho's earliest date of release from the prison will be in 2021. Tonight, 3 of 4 men linked to a gun found in a parked vehicle are home free after Lionel Longsworth took the rap for the firearm and ammo. Harold Usher, Dane Gillett, and Jeffrey Buller were along with Longsworth when the gun was intercepted on the night of January 2, 2019 on Krantz Street in Belize City. The GSU officers came up empty-handed in a first search, but during another search of the vehicle at the Queen Street Police Station, they found a 9mm pistol and 13 rounds stowed inside a compartment. Police believe they prevented a murder from occurring when they made the bust. Representing the 4 accused men was attorney Ronel Gonzalez, who asked the court for leniency for Longsworth's first conviction and for the fact that he did not waste the court's time when he pleaded guilty. Magistrate Banner imposed a total of $7,000 in fines. The magistrate also ordered Longsworth to pay the $3,500 by November 31, 2019, and the balance by December 31, 2019. Or in default, he will spend 3 years behind bars on each count. On the night of the gun bust, police say they were investigating the possibility that the same vehicle was involved in a shooting near Wax House on New Year's night. Coming up, millions of dollars lost in a farming community in northern Belize.
Money in the Bank.
The financial losses to farmers up north don't look good after months of a drought gripped the farming community. In Little Belize, a small Mennonite community in the Orange Walk district, crops of soybeans and vegetables as well as livestock were severely impacted by the lack of rain. Acres of produce and hundreds of heads of cattle have been affected. Farmers are feeling the pain in their pockets and their livelihood is under threat. Today, News 5's Isani Cayetano returned to Little Belize and files the following report.
The devastating impact of severe dry weather that has been affecting the country is felt most in the north, where the agriculture sector has taken the brunt of the unseasonable drought. In the Corozal district, farmers are still assessing losses they have suffered as a result of the prolonged shortage of water, which has harshly affected crop production. Little Belize, a traditional Mennonite community east of Progreso Lagoon, has seen entire cornfields decimated. Soybean, an economic mainstay in this agrarian colony, is once again in grave danger.
So we are standing here in a poor field of soybeans, and most of them they are like this, like what we already pictured. So it's poor. A lot of them will maybe give 20% of the full produce, and some fields that are like in 50 and 60%. It's the highest what I saw as up to now. It's like 50-60%, the highest one, but the most are lower. They're like 15%, 20%, 25% of producing what they normally should.
Across Little Belize, there are approximately 7,000 acres of legume that were planted earlier this year. It is estimated that the maximum yield will be 25%. That's a massive loss of almost $2 million, and that is only one crop grown in this area of northern Belize.
For Little Belize itself, the grains, the veggies, and also and other legumes were also damaged by the drought. Similarly to other parts of the district, and also other parts of the other districts that I already mentioned. So it has been a similar situation due to drought. Right?
Looking at the pastoral landscape, cows are grazing, but many of them are emaciated from lack of water. The grasses they have been consuming over the past few months have been low in water content, and it clearly shows. Elsner Campos is the District Agriculture Coordinator for Corozal.
Our department has already reported taking in consideration that how many pounds it was lost for each animal during this long period, during this long drought. This is something that hasn't happened just out of a sudden, right? It's due to many other reasons. One of them is climate change, and well, the animals did suffer, if you were asking about it. We are considering 50 pounds loss during this long drought, and that was mainly throughout the district, I would say.
This was first shared by Agriculture Minister Godwin Hulls last month when the figures were released on the effects of the drought on cattle.
Livestock took a big hit, but livestock is a little touchy because the figures given to me that is about 60,300 heads of cattle that have been affected, not dead, means they lost weight, they get mager, they didn't have water, never had grass. So the estimate is roughly about 50 pounds per animal, and of course at $1.50 a pound, it's a significant reduction. Cattle will come back for sure.
Abraham Smith is one of several thousand residents who make their living off the land. Back in March, the soybean industry was at a critical juncture due to the introduction of derivatives from Mexico. The industry was primed to rebound after government stepped in to regulate importation, but no one here was prepared for this catastrophe.
Okay, we have no idea how we would handle the loss because we have nowhere another income. So if we will not get help from somewhere, so we are not able to get fertilizer again to give the nutrition to the land, and even to buy the chemicals to spray them to give good products. So it's this will not even cover the expenses of the cost of of the planting and spraying, whatever, all the maintenance. So for labor, we will have nothing.
While government has stepped in to provide some relief to farmers in the most affected areas, recovering from this devastating phenomenon will prove challenging to most farmers who already owe the banks for this year's crop.
They cannot see how to keep going this way because it's all tied up because they owe the bank and so on.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
The extreme dry weather conditions that have adversely affected the agriculture sector has once again prompted a discussion on climate resiliency and the need for farmers to adopt other practices that are considered weather resistant. Additionally, government has extended a hand to the agro-productive sector, particularly to farmers in the central, western, and northern districts by means of grants as well as loan facilities. They must, however, be registered in order to access the financial assistance being provided.
We need to find some more resilient ways of doing farming. Farming can no longer be the traditional way. We have to understand that climate is changing, that we need to find adapting manners, adapting ways, irrigation, other ways in order to sustain the amount of food that our people need and also what we normally export, right, or whatever is produced. It's no longer as easy as before. Water are not dropping when we require or when we know. As you can see, during the day it was raining heavily, all the rain that was expected during the past months before, and so we need to find a way how to reshuffle that, to find a way how to adapt and to mitigate what's occurring, right? So I would say, and the best thing is to find a way how to adapt. Right?
Talk to us now about the relief efforts and the fact that you're trying to get as many farmers registered so that they may be able to receive some assistance with their losses.
Okay, and our ministry conducts a census, farmer registry every 10 years. This year we have been conducting since start of the year, due to the drought and to the damage that has been occurring due to it, and we have extended this amount of time for farmers to register.
According to District Agriculture Coordinator Elsner Campus, it is important for farmers to enroll with the ministry so that a record of their location, the crops they grow, and the scale at which they're producing are all recorded for future use. Campus says that the information is necessary for times like these, where help is being offered to affected farmers.
Since it's of importance, because you cannot diagnose what is your illness or your sickness if you don't really know exact data as to who and to whom is affected, right? So that is one of the main reasons why of a registry and or farmer census, which engulfs other things which might be of importance, so that then our government and also our ministry could find the amount of finance and funds in order to alleviate whatever difficulties our people will be facing, right? So I will say it's of vital importance for farmers to take our registry, our farmers register, as of great importance, and to look forward to visit our office or visit our place who's still open for them to register and see this as an opportunity and also as a example of all that could be done if information is there and what you could find in money-wise to alleviate any further problems if this continues, right?
A project to electrify Keokauker Village will cost the Belize Electricity Limited some $13.6 million. The monies are being borrowed from the Caribbean Development Bank on certain conditions, including that the loan shall be guaranteed by the government of Belize. The objective is to improve the electricity reliability and increase capabilities on the island. The loan motion was approved by the House of Representatives as required by law, and today it was debated and approved by the Senate.
While we are connecting Keokauker to the national grid, there are many people in San Pedro who still don't have electricity. And I'm talking in San Pedro town. On the interest terms, you're seeing some one at 3 and a 1% commitment fee, the other one at 4.8 and a 1% commitment fee. Well, now you're beginning to come into the range where I think Belizeans should have been invited to participate in the issuance of these paper, because you're around 5 or more percent, Mr. President. And I think that something like this could have been secured from local funding from up some of the excess liquidity that we have in the system, and give Belizeans an opportunity to regain some confidence in at least local investing.
President, really did I hear Senator Lizarraga correctly? Come on, man. This is a motion where I imagine nobody in their right mind could have any problem with. But you can't just commend the government for this motion. You have to say, oh, well, we're happy for Keokauker, but what about San Pedro? It's like I keep saying, this government could find the cure for cancer, and his response will be, so what about AIDS? I mean, come on, man. Can't we just be commended and just leave it at that? I mean, there has to be, then you talk about, so you can't quarrel with what the government is doing at BEL, so you have to say, but government really own majority of BEL. I know. Why you have to pick at that? I mean, why you have to pick at that? And they know about Baruch, good project, excellent project, but why not provide the money locally? I mean, come on, man. How can anybody be against something like this? You just have to find something to complain about.
Over the weekend, the business center at Ladyville Technical High School was burglarized, and a number of laptops donated by Digi were stolen. The Belize Police Department is asking the public's assistance in locating 16 gray and black Dell brand laptops. The crime occurred sometime between October 6th and 7th. The discovery was made by the security on Monday when the staff returned to the office. Authorities at the high school did not wish to comment on the loss to the school. After the break, the future of the management contract to Brad's Gaming Company Limited. Will automatic renewal be accorded?
country, your bank.
In 2009, Brad's Gaming Company Limited, owned by Kim Jen-chi, was granted a management contract to manage the lottery program, which rakes in millions of dollars in administrative fees and taxes to government. The privatization increased government's take, and while Brad's share is not known, it is surely a pretty sum. There is now word that the thinking in Belmopan is to move to an automatic approval of the contract, and that has been causing some unease and not sitting well in certain sectors. Today, former COLA President Giovanni Brackett issued a release questioning the integrity of the proposed renewal and making the comparison to the contract granted to the former city administrator Candice Miller within days of an election.
What my press release is saying that I completely object as a citizen, and this is in consultation with a team of people who have been speaking with me as individual citizens, who have actually heard the layman person and different individuals who have concerns about the way how the Bolito Lottery is being conducted right now. So what happened is that I am completely objecting to any automatic renewal. So far, Dwayne, we have not been given an actual account of how much money is the Bolito industry Brad's is making. We need to know how much the government is making and how much Brad's is making so we can know if this is actually a fair share. Moreover, there have been glitches over the years with the Bolito system. I think in 2013 there was an issue on a Sunday lottery whereby one of the chambers, the balls field, came up and they had to manually pick the ball. In another instance, I think in 2017, there was a hacking within the system and it caused quite a controversy. And so we know that the system currently isn't perfect. This is no allegation against the company saying that they are anything in malfeasance and anything. However, but we must say that there's credible, I think we all know that the Belizean public have many questions. I think that there needs to be an audit of the system. I think that the system needs to be revamped and relooked at, and this all needs to happen before any consideration of a renewal of the current status quo. And considering what is important here, Dwayne, is the fact that this government may be in its last term. And just like what we've seen with the Candice Miller issue, when an administration goes ahead arbitrarily giving out a contract extension, assuming that they'll win in power, it caused controversy. And so I don't think that the next administration, whether it's a PUP or UDP, should be hand-tied behind their backs and can't do anything with a contract that might turn out to not be the best fit for the Belizean public.
Brackett has since written a letter to Prime Minister Dean Barrow seeking information on the Bolito deal. He's also advocating for the tender process and for information on who really owns Brad's, a popular hangout for UDP politicians at the bottom of the Belcamp Bridge.
When exactly does this contract end, and what are the plans, if any, to continue the private management as status quo? We currently, I don't know when is the expiration date, and I think the Belizean public needs to know that. Number two, will the contract be put out to tender as before, or will it be automatic renewal, and why? And what are the criteria for tendering? Will the government test any equipment that is owned by the gaming company for future malfunction, and if it's up to par? One of the things that has concerned me is that I would like the public to ask, and I'd like the government to disclose, who are the shareholders within this lottery company, gaming company? Because I know we hear the term Brad's and we think a Chinese Belizean man, but I was informed, and that needs to be investigated, that he's a minority shareholder, and that we need to check if there's a foreign company that is in there. Because if the government gave this company, this contract out to what we thought was a fully owned Belizean company, it turns out to be that there's a majority or a wide amount of shareholding by a foreign company, then that's not in the best interest of the Belizean people. And so I think there are genuine concerns out there. I am only articulating what I think the regular Belizean man or woman wants to ask. And so this is just for me, just putting it on the record.
Brackett says he will lobby the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the senators, and other social partners to get answers on the situation around the popular Bolido. At today's Senate meeting, Business Senator Mark Lizarraga says that he too has issues with the way government grants contracts.
We need to have a transparent and accountable way of how government continues to pick winners and losers. Was this thing put out to tender? What was the process employed? What were the prerequisites, and why this individual? I think that's the same message we keep hearing and we keep sending, is that we cannot have a situation where government continues to pick winners and losers in a less than transparent manner. And I'm not saying that that happened in this case. I'm saying that that's what Mr. Brackett has claimed. And again, I have not looked at it fully. But in principle, we always stand for, having a process clearly defined so that you could participate in it, and I could participate in it, and you could participate in it, and not just have members of cabinet pick the winners and losers in whatever we have, going on.
Late this afternoon, Giovanni Brackett told News 5 that Prime Minister Dean Barrow responded to his letter. In a telephone conversation with him, Brackett says that the Prime Minister said, quote, confirmed that the matter of renewal was placed to Cabinet and it has been agreed that there will be no automatic renewal, unquote. Brackett says that he will continue to monitor the situation as it progresses and will hold the Prime Minister to his word that when the contract expires, it will be put to tender. When we come back, CARSI, a U.S. government initiative, disperses funds to 3 organizations fighting violence against women and children.
You, your family, your future.
The U.S. government, through the CARSI ESF grant program, has awarded $750,000 US to 3 organizations in Belize. Since 2007, over $9 million US have been awarded to civil society groups. Today's funding is just one part of over $40 million US awarded through the CARSI program to Belize. News 5 attended today's grant signing ceremony in Belmopan. Andrea Polanco tells us more.
3 organizations received a total of $750,000 US in grants from the Central America Regional Security Initiative Economic Support Funds, better known as the CARSI ESF. The grant awards are to be used for 2-year projects to promote good governance and to improve services in response to gender-based violence and human trafficking. Today, the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires, Keith Gilgas, signed over the grants to the recipients.
Here in Belize, we hope the grants contribute to increased citizen participation and oversight so that all levels of government are responsive to the people. Through the CARSI ESF program this year, we ask our 2019 grantees to focus on one of at least 2 objectives. 1, to strengthen the partnership between civil society and the government, or to improve government services that respond to gender-based violence and trafficking in persons, especially for vulnerable and marginalized populations.
Red International was awarded $296,296 US to implement a project that will raise awareness and create a resource and reference guide for enhanced access to services for gender-based violence and trafficking in persons.
Red will be working in 9 municipalities in the districts of Belize, Cayo, and Stan Creek. 2, 1, increase the awareness and visibility of key stakeholders, protocols, and structures for accessing services that respond to TIP and at the national level, municipal and community level, for improved support to the women and youth victims or at risk for TIP. 2, to strengthen mechanisms, structures, processes, and human capacity for increased coordination, monitoring, reporting, and response to women and youth victims at risk for TIP and GBV. And 3, to improve access to government services that respond to TIP and GBV at community level through strengthened public-private partnerships and enhanced CSO monitoring for accountability, timely, and transparent service delivery.
The second recipient of the CARSI ESF grant for 2019 is the Trust of the Americas. They received $209,500 US to implement a phase 2 of a project that seeks to promote an open public administration in Belize.
In phase 2, what are we going to do? We are going to build capacity in government and other actors so that we can strengthen the relationship and the partnership to achieve open government. The last of our objectives in phase 2 is to empower communities through innovative solutions and to generate livelihoods that promote good governance. And I believe we can achieve those goals.
The Youth Enhancement Services will be using their $240,500 grant on a project that will see better support and protection of marginalized women, girls, and children affected by commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking and domestic violence.
This 2-year project has 4 main goals. Goal 1 is to strengthen the family support to at-risk youth by collaborating with the National Committee for Families and Children to train trainers utilizing the newly approved parenting manual. Goal 2 is to enhance knowledge and skills of government and non-governmental employees using results-based management approach. Goal 3, provide capacity building to enhance awareness and sensitize youth advocates to aid in the prevention and identification of possible victims of human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. The last goal is to increase access to alternative shelters, legal representation, and psychosocial support for victims of CSEC trafficking, and domestic violence.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
Coming up after the break, Giovanni Brackett tells the PSU to stop playing nice and step up to recover the Hilltop property in Belmopan. Former COLA President Giovanni Brackett also chimed in today on the Hilltop property debacle where the headquarters of the PSU was sold, even though negotiations were ongoing with the Belmopan City Council. A Coruscant company, Simplex Designs Limited, acquired the property and the PSU is now facing eviction. Brackett is known not to mince words, and while he did not question the integrity of the Public Service Union President Gerald Henry, he says Henry must stop the niceness and take a different route to get the situation resolved in favor of the union. Brackett says unions are powerful and have the muscle to bring changes.
Gerald Henry, I know him very well. He's a very nice guy. But my advice to him is that this doesn't take niceness as you have seen what has happened. First of all, that Hilltop is a monumental piece. It's a shame that the Belmopan City Council even allowed this to happen. I think the Minister John Saldiva, I think what he should do is go out of his way to recover that property. I think when you look at that and see a Chinese business, and it's no disrespect to any Chinese because I have friends who are Chinese, but when you look at that and you see a Chinese establishment up there, that's one of the biggest disrespect to the Belizean populace. I think that Ms. Jacqueline Willoughby, I think every PSU past president, current president, this should be stink up to the nostrils. You don't need to do a general membership to see if you want to give up something that has been yours for over the decades and the amount of years that they have been occupying that property. I think there was a church up there who used it on Sunday. That's a historical piece for the people of Belmopan. And I think that it's a shame when we have that a monumental piece can be sold so easily without opposition. Just having said that, I think that while we go through the courts, I think that we've seen the Public Service Union demonstrated in a much more way that can bring attention. They are not the group. The unions are not known to be taking crap like that. Unions around the world, they move with action, and when they speak, government has to listen. The only way the union doesn't move if it's compromised or not informed. It's no secret the unions are powerful, and they have 10 times the muscle any COLA have or any other smaller groups, and they don't need to take it. And I would urge him to sit there until thy kingdom come. Tell the Chinaman to go back to Belmopan City Council, work out their deal to recover back his money, but by no way in God's given earth, hell or high water, should they ever even consider giving up that property. And I would be more than willing to march with them anytime they're willing to take action on behalf of the members of the PSU.
Today, the Mesoamerican Reef Network held its second biannual meeting. Belize, Guatemala, Mexico, and Honduras gathered in Belize City to talk about the challenges of the Mesoamerican Reef and how they are responding to those issues. As we've reported, one of the issues is the stony coral tissue loss disease that is present in Belize and Mexico. But the entire MAR is under pressure from a number of threats, and the countries got together to plan how to address those challenges and learn about some of the best practices being employed. We stopped in at today's meeting where we spoke with the president of the MAR network.
Another major issue for some of the countries is sargassum, the seaweed that seems to just land on our coasts. That's been happening now for a few years, so we're seeing some pretty deleterious effects from that. And what was the other thing water quality, of course, is another issue that some of the countries are facing, especially in Mexico, where the reefs are really close to the coast. So we need to deal with all of the problems associated with reduced water quality. And because all of those factors, along with the problem of CO2 emissions, where the temperature of the seawater is rising, all of that is having a really negative effect on corals and on coral reefs. And so that means that it has an effect on tourism, on fishing, and all sorts of activities that affect us humans that rely on these ecosystems.
We'll have more from today's Mesoamerican Reef meeting in Thursday's newscast. And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, good night.